Virtual desktop versus Oculus Link. Something people keep asking me in the comments over my last sort of 3 or 4 videos where I've talked about both. And also, people keep asking me, am I using the genuine Oculus Link cable or am I using a cheapy aftermarket one? And the answer is I'm using both, or I'm dicking around with both. I have a genuine one, as you can see there, which is actually down the side of the table here, and I've got a cheapy one in one of the drawers over there somewhere. I just happen to have a long USB 3.1 or whatever it is, the protocol cable kicking about that I'd use to extend the sensors for my Rift CV1. Now, one of the other questions people ask is, what bandwidth am I seeing when I run the USB test in the Oculus software? So with both my official link cable and my random cheaper one, I think it's made by, it might be an Anchor cable. Oh, no, I think it's Lindy. They're Lindy cables. They both see about 2.9 to 3 gigabits per second using the USB test in the Oculus software. And that is both using the USB-C output on my RTX 2080, so straight out the graphics card, and using the 4-port USB I've got on the front of my computer here. So that just plugs into a header on my motherboard. So there's no difference between using the one on the graphics card and one off the motherboard, at least not for my B450 MSI Mortar motherboard and my RTX 2080. I can use either, makes no difference whatsoever. And a similar story goes for the genuine Oculus Link cable versus the Lindy cable that I use. Now, there are differences, but not in the digital experience. So what you see visually looks exactly the same. As long as you're using a cable that has plenty of bandwidth, like I had a random old proper thin cheapy cable line around here that I plugged in just for fun. That barely got 900 megabits a second. So that would actually struggle and bottleneck the Oculus Link connection. But if you've got a good quality cable, whether it's genuine Oculus Link or whether it's Lindy or whether it's the other brand that I said a second ago that I've forgotten, Anchor, and there's another one as well that everyone uses, it's called Play something or another, I can't remember now. But yeah, as long as it's a good quality aftermarket cable, the digital experience you get inside your headset will be no different. But I would still recommend using the genuine cable for a few reasons, and these are my personal reasons, they might not be the same for you. The genuine cable, being fibre optic, is much, much lighter than a good quality aftermarket cable. For the likes of Anchor and Lindy to make good quality cables, they are thick and they are heavy because they are using copper core to transmit the data at the rates that it needs to be transmitted at. When the Oculus cable does it, it's fibre optic. It's just a hollow tube that light is bounced down at the speed of light. At each end of the cable is what you might call a digital to digital converter. Out of your USB port comes your image digitally, and it then converts it to a separate digital format, which is your fibre optic format, and that's pulsed down the cable to the other end, where another digital to digital converter, that's probably not what they're called, but you know what I'm saying, receives the light and converts it back into your normal USB voltage and signals and puts that into the headset. This is one of the reasons that the Oculus cable is so expensive compared to an aftermarket one. Aftermarket ones don't have these little active converters in either end. They cost money, you know, they're not free. The actual fibre optic cable itself isn't particularly expensive, I don't think, but you've got to add in these little active converters at each end. It's a bit like if you buy a powered USB extension cable. It's quite a bit more money than a non-powered one because there is a chip and a processor and an amplification circuit that's taking the signal in and then sending it back out again. And that's happening twice in this Oculus cable. So there is value, there is reasoning behind this high price. And obviously they have to make a profit. They're not doing it for free. So yeah, the aftermarket cables are much heavier and much thicker. Some of them you can get with a 90-degree bend that comes out the headset, some of them don't. For the ones that don't, that's obviously a pain in the arse straight away. The other problem, aside from the weight and the fatness, is that most USB cables are not designed to be dragged around the floor behind you to be twisted around if you've got a ceiling mount system, to be tugged at when you inevitably get it caught, as you're playing VR and being quite active. USB cables usually just run from point A to point B and they sit there doing nothing. So what I'm seeing online, whilst I was researching whether to buy a genuine one or not, was quite a few people suffering with connection failures either at the headset or the USB port on the computer, depending if where they have it plugged in. If they have it plugged in at the front and you walk and you tug it, you're going to end up yanking away at that connection. And it seemed like the connections on the cable itself are what seemed to be failing. Obviously, you can do this with a genuine Oculus cable as well, and eventually you'll potentially damage the USB port on the computer, the USB port on the headset if you don't have any sort of strain relief, and ultimately the cable itself. But what I'm seeing with the aftermarket cables is the ends are failing. Basically, you're getting a connection failure because they're just not designed to be used in a physical manner. The Oculus cable, even though it's thinner and lighter, the connections are quite chunky. They're designed to be used as a virtual reality headset cable. So presumably they put a little bit of thought into it and have, reinforced those, they made them a bit more solid so they don't break so easily. So that's really the difference between the two. The physical difference is the actual performance difference is not, there's none. None that we can see visually. If you were to measure it using equipment, then the fibre optic cable is probably faster. Although there would be latency where it converts it at each end, so maybe it balances out. But anyway, yes, from our personal experiences, what we see, you won't notice any difference at all. And I see the odd person in the comments when I've spoken about Link before, saying that the cable itself restricts the quality that we can get from our PCs. It really isn't the cable. The cable's got more than enough bandwidth to send all that information down and then some. The reason Link quality is often lower than perhaps we'd like is because our PCs we don't have the power to encode everything at the resolution necessary for the Quest 2, convert it, send it and unconvert it. It's just a lot of strain on our PCs. I explain this all in another video where I talk about what GPU and CPU we need. If you watch that video and you realise what resolution the Quest our PCs actually have to render the games at to get native on the Quest, is really high, way higher than a 4K monitor on your desktop. And of course we want to run 90 Hertz as well. So in fact, answer the question yourselves. If you want to run 90 Hertz on a 4K display on your desktop, you tell me what graphics card and what CPU you need. And then imagine that, but about 50% more pixels again. That's what we're talking about when we try and run over Link native resolution on a Quest 2. We need some girth, we really do. But anyway, it's enough waffling about cables. There's my answer to your questions. I have a genuine one because I like the fact that it's lighter, it's designed for purpose, it's got the 90-degree angle, and hopefully it will last a bit longer than some of the cheaper aftermarket ones, which are heavier, not really designed to be, twatted around in virtual reality and trodden on and twisted and what have you. And while some people may in the comments, you've got to preempt these comments here, someone's going to say, oh, you can't stand on a fibre optic cable and you can't kink a fibre optic cable. No, you can't kink a fibre optic cable because you'll probably break it. But we shouldn't at any point in our virtual reality lives be doing anything that kinks, and by kink I mean actually kinks, folds it back on itself. So that shouldn't really be an issue, and it's yet to be an issue for me either. And you can quite happily stand on the Oculus on the Oculus Link cable. If you're on carpet and you're wearing socks, yes, maybe if you were out playing on concrete floors and you're wearing hard shoes, maybe not the best idea because you could potentially collapse that fibre optic tube. But for 99.9% of people, we're playing in our homes, we're probably not wearing shoes, we may well be on carpet, it will be just fine. But anyway, that's enough waffling for me. As always, thank you very much for watching and take it easy.